Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Alta. Yeah. All right, if I get applause for that, my job is done. It's only downhill from there. Thank you all for coming. I'm Terry Tamminen, the president and CEO of Alta, and I want to recognize our team, which is growing. Once upon a time at these open houses, I could just name the 3 or 4 people and the volunteers that worked for Alta, but today it would take us all day to name them all. So let me all just ask you to give a great big round of applause for all the staff and volunteers that put all of this together. And especially my partner and our founder, Jenny Crusoe, right over there, who you all know. Jenny, yay. And while we're on the subject, there's one person more than any who has created and invented these open houses from the time when there were maybe 10 people in these chairs in a giant empty warehouse till today, and so many other of our events that we want to give a special recognition to. May I please see Robin Aubie right here on the stage. Robin, where are you? Robin, 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 Robin. Yes. Thank you, Robin. Yes, yay. Absolutely amazing. Like Jenny, been here since day one, and none of this would exist without her. And another person who we owe a lot of gratitude to for putting together our events and being such a wonderful member of the community, it happens to be her birthday today. Cheryl, come on up. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Cheryl. Happy birthday to you. Got to celebrate those moments. Thank you. Thank you for helping us do that. Those of you standing in the back, don't be shy. There's plenty of seats down front here and in the middle. We're going to have a great program. You're going to really enjoy it, so maybe you want to be near the cookies. Maybe that's what's going on there. But now, first of all, for those of you that may never have been to Alta, let me just tell you a little bit about what it is. It's a nonprofit that was started to create and accelerate the blue economy, to help educate, train the workforce, and then help develop the businesses in the blue economy, so aquaculture and wave energy and other kinds of renewable energy from the ocean and underwater robotics and exciting ways to explore and understand it. And so the Port of Los Angeles essentially dedicated this 35-acre campus with these 100-year-old warehouses and up to us as a nonprofit to raise the money to renovate them into a modern hub for the blue economy and education and workforce training, which we're already doing, even though we're starting the renovation, trying to work around the renovation, or they're working around us. A year from now, it'll all look like those artist renderings on the wall over there. For now, we've got a number of wonderful tenants in here that are growing kelp and inventing food and fuel of the future, that are developing the offshore wind and wave energy technologies that we'll need to power our homes and our cars and everything else that's electrified, and of course all the exciting exploration that's being done under the ocean with new technologies. Just amazing. So we invite you to keep coming back, learning more about this, and today you're going to see a lot about that first bucket, aquaculture, and how that's going to be something that in the future will power all of us. I don't know if any of you have seen the Apple TV series Extrapolations, but it looks into the future, and in 2067 there's an episode that takes place where, because people have wiped out the pollinators and the natural food systems, nobody has what we would recognize as food anymore, and they're all complaining that everything is made from kelp. So it's a good thing, and if that's the only thing, maybe not as good, but we definitely look forward to a future that can be made from sustainable sources from the ocean. We also recognize that we are not the first people on this land, and that there is a rich history long before there was a port here. And so I'd like to introduce and welcome to the stage Tina Calderon, who is a member of the Gabrielino, Tongva, Chumash, and Yoele tribes, and she's a songwriter, a singer, a storyteller, a dancer, and our cultural advisor here. Please welcome Tina to the stage. And I think before we do the land acknowledgement and ask her for some inspiration for today, we want to unveil some signage here that we've developed to recognize what's here at Alta Sea, or has been before. So Tina, if you'll help me just pull that back. There we go. Fantastic. And Tina helped us develop this material. Right now, we're doing it in these temporary signs because we're under construction, so we can move them around as needed. But later on, we want to have more interpretation all over the site permanently to recognize that the first people are still here and they're all around us. So with that, Tina, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you, Terry. Me iha ne hinkam ne twanya ne tinor duno calderon ko mikrabet na ha tongve koi mix kanakan koyo eme awesh kone ha ko avomanete hovetamet. Hello, my relatives. I'm Tinor Duno Calderon, Gabrielino Tongva, Ventureño Chumash, and Yoeme, and I'm happy to be here with all of you today. The language I started with is the traditional ancestral language of Tongve, the language that the Tongva people spoke right here. And the village that you are, that's closest to this area is Suwanga. And there's two different spellings because we didn't have a written form of communication. So when they would ask us questions, it would be spelled by the hearer, what they thought they heard. So you can see that it's very, very similar if you say Swanga or Suwanga, or you don't really emphasize and it's just Swanga. So this is the closest village, but there were many villages around this area, all the way up these hills. And our people, we lived in autonomous villages. We had our own tumier or chief in each village, but we all lived by certain laws. And it was so important that we lived in reciprocity with the earth and the waters. So in that way, I thank my relatives because they gave us so many teachings to be in harmony with the earth, the waters, the microbes, the minerals, the plant and the animal relatives. It's all part of nature, and we are all part of nature. So what we do to nature, we do to all of the environment. So I'm very happy to be here, and I'm very happy about some of the things that Alta Sea works on to try to be better stewards of the lands. And I want to just say, Yarar como krehanuk vatam, we remember the ancestors. Awesh konreha ahihirom kohinayanad, we thank our elders and our teachers. Gerukanakre eyotarhim, we stand with our children and the 7 generations to come. So I'm going to go ahead and offer an ancestor song. And I want to also share that when we say ancestors, yeah, it's the peoples that lived here, but it's not only the peoples. It's all life in the 4 directions, because we can't live without those plant relatives. We can't live without the sacred elements, right? So as I sing this song, I would really love for you just to fill your heart with gratitude for everything that our Earth Mother gives us to survive. And as you think about your own ancestors, what they have left you, because none of us would be here without them, right? So think of them with gratitude. Oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah, eh. Oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah, eh. Yarar como crehnu petam, tu me comicta me pai me. Yarar como crehnu petam, tu me comicta me pai me. Oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah, eh. Oh, ah, oh, ah, oh, ah, eh. Yarar como crehnu petam, tu me comicta me pai me. Yara como krenuk vetam, tu me komikitame paime. Oh ah oh ah oh ah oh ah oh ah oh ah oh eh. Oh ah oh ah oh ah oh ah oh ah oh ah oh eh. Yara como krenuk vetam, tu me komikitame paime. Yarar como krenuk vetam, tu me komikitame paime. Thank you so much. So that song, it just tells the ancestors we remember them, and it calls to the four directions. And oftentimes we sing our songs 4 times through. Today I sung it 3 times because we have lost 3 Tongva elders in this month. And so I wanted to leave that 4th round for them to be singing on their journey. So thank you so much for having me. I have a table over here. If you have any questions, feel free to come and join, and I'm happy to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tina, very much. Much appreciated. And we are hoping that the Tiat Society, this traditional canoe is called a Tiat, and we're hoping that the Tiat Society will bring the one that was built in reviving the tradition that was actually done some years ago and paddled all the way out to Catalina and back to restore that tradition. And they've also learned, the Tiat Society, how the woodworking was done. We're hoping not only will that Tiat come here for our public engagement center after renovations, but that we will also have the woodworking techniques being taught here to the next generation so we can pass this down from one generation to the next. I want to acknowledge our 2 amazing sign language interpreters right here right now. Please give them a great big round of applause. And I think the way for people that are having trouble hearing, that the correct way to give that round of applause is this. So let's all give this round of applause. Thank you very much. Fantastic. It's an art form in itself. We really appreciate it. Well, our featured speaker today, this morning, is John Molina, who's the founding partner of Pacific 6, which is our tenant here, our valued partner in championing the importance of commercial aquaculture all around the United States, but demonstrating it right here. It was founded in 2017 to invest in important initiatives that can positively impact coastal communities. Pacific 6 has been working with research institutions, government agencies, marine biologists, aquaculture engineers, and environmentalists from all around the world to advance the sustainable marine aquaculture in North America. And the company is leading key aquaculture projects demonstrating how the nation can sustainably grow more of the seafood we consume, and of course with things like kelp, even fuel and pharmaceuticals and other extracts. And this includes the development of state-of-the-art commercial aquaculture vessels, which you're going to see one of today, that represent a major step towards safe, sustainable, and scalable open ocean aquaculture in North America. And just before we bring John up to speak, I want to show you a video of Pacific 6's new state-of-the-art aquaculture vessel, which you're going to see in live today, the Pacific Alliance. So let's run the tape. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome John Molina. There he is.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for being here. And especially a big thanks to Terry and to Jenny for shepherding Alta Sea. I was on the board of the Aquarium of the Pacific for many, many years before Terry and Jenny got involved in Alta Sea, and there was always a big question of whether or not this was going to happen. Well, it's happened, and it's growing, and we're so proud to be a part of it. Terry talked about progress, and I think progress is wonderful. Everybody loves progress. Progress comes with a cost. The Industrial Revolution, automobiles so that you could drive around yourself and not have to wait for a train, airlines, and now we're seeing the effects of progress. Climate change, droughts, hurricanes of a scale that no one thought possible coming from different places. And that's Mother Nature. That is nature's, as Tina was telling us, that's nature's call to us. No more, nature said to us. But then nature, if we take a step back to our ancestors, nature also gives us the tools to fix the problems if we just allow it to happen. Think about it. There are folks out there investing billions of dollars to create huge machines to suck carbon out of the air. We have another natural way to do that. Let's grow kelp. Put it in the ocean, and it will do the same thing naturally. We need more food. We need more protein. We need healthy protein. It takes 600 gallons of fresh water at a time when we have droughts. 600 gallons of fresh water to produce 1 pound of beef. Think about that. 1 pound of mussels probably takes less than 1 gallon of fresh water, and that's just because you've got to wash them off. We started Pacific 6, we started Pacific Mariculture with those goals in mind, that we could rely on nature to help us solve some of these tremendous problems that we have. Everybody loves salmon. The big thing about salmon is omega-3 fatty acids, brain food. You know what else has a lot of omega-3 fatty acids? Mussels. Mussels, however, don't have mercury like your salmon does. Mussels can be grown out here and doesn't impact the environment, because the last time I read, mussels don't swim, so they can't escape. And the other benefit is those mussel shells are all carbon. So what we're doing is creating a solution, a part of a solution, that addresses many, many things that people want and need. And we're just one of the organizations here. You go up and down, and you will see other organizations here that we're so proud to be our neighbors and partners doing the same thing, thinking the same way. I find it a bit ironic, I'm a bit of a skeptic sometimes, that we have multi-billionaires, guys whose biggest goal is to create communities in outer space, off-world. Why not just fix what we got right here? If we could spend 1/10 of what they're spending to get to Mars, we'll probably solve our problem. The other beautiful thing is, we in the blue economy are creating jobs that heretofore have not existed. For your kids, and I know there's a bunch of high schoolers here, for my kids, for my grandkids. God, I hope to have them, but not for a while. We need them to have jobs that they can be proud of, jobs that actually add something to our communities. Not just these things on the phone where we sit there and snipe at each other, but actually solving solutions. That, my friends, is progress. And as much as you'll see this wonderful boat, and this was a labor of love, and I think Nick Hayjack, who is our ship captain, is on the vessel right now. It is beautiful, but it is sadly out of date. So we're starting on version number 2. We're going to build a hybrid workship. And when that thing gets built, we actually may have a carbon negative operation. That's something pretty impressive. So I really hope that you enjoy taking a look at the ship and talking to Captain Nick. I thank you for your interest in being here, because this is the future, and it's the future by going back to the past. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, John. He almost stole my line, which is our future is blue. But before I introduce Nick and invite you all to go out and see the vessel, I want to point out one of the unique things about Alta. So we have researchers here from a variety of universities. Our USC Kelp Lab is just down the hall here, and they're researching different forms of kelp and other seaweed and algae and so forth that can become crops in the future that can withstand a changing ocean. Right next to them is Holdfast, and Ian is right there from Holdfast. Raise your hand, Ian. Yes. And Ian and his team are inventing new ways to grow and to breed mussels and oysters and clams so that we have more sustainable forms of seafood and better ways to breed them. And then he gives the larvae out to farmers to be able to grow out into more food. And then obviously with Pacific 6 here and with the Pacific Alliance you're going to see, we have the actual farmers. So where else can you go and get the researchers with the companies that are creating the products and then the ones that are actually going to take them out and grow them out to scale so they can all talk to each other, so that each one can say, well, wait a minute, what if we did it this way? What if we added that? Oh, okay, great, let's try it. And then let's go out and do it at scale. This is a really unique place that I just don't think in any other form of certainly food production or livestock production exists. Usually everybody works in their silo and then they hope that somebody commercializes it. They don't hear back about what worked or didn't. The researchers aren't talking to everybody. So that's what's so unique about this place. But today we're actually going to see the production side of this. So I'm going to invite you to come out to the wharf to meet and hear Captain Nick Hayjack, who's the Director of Maritime Operations for Pacific 6. He's going to be speaking to us from the deck of the Pacific Alliance. Nick is a remarkable guy who helps us here in so many different ways. He's an international marine contractor. He manages several maritime projects focused on offshore farming, the 100-acre demonstration aqua farm out here that he has built, commercial scale aquaculture, carbon capture, as John mentioned, and hybrid or even all-electric vessel designs, as well as continuing his work overseas. He comes from a maritime family. He's an 8th-generation Norwegian captain who's heavily involved in installing and supporting commercial-scale offshore farms in various countries, as well as overseeing the progress and operations of several cutting-edge projects right here in the United States and here in California. Internationally recognized captain, commercial diver, paramedic, aquaculture engineer, and all-around good guy, was born in the U.S. but calls New Zealand home. So now let's go out and meet the captain who's making it all happen and see the ship that John built and invested in. Let's go out and meet Captain Nick. Come on out.
Testing. Everyone can hear me? Good morning, everyone. Is it still morning? Hello to the viewers on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, people who couldn't make it, people in Japan, everywhere else around the world. Welcome to Alta. As you can see, it's quite a beautiful day, especially looking at all your beautiful faces. So thank you for joining us. What you're looking at is the Pacific Alliance. She's 80 feet long. She's 30 feet wide. She's built out of solid aluminum. And she is North America's first offshore aquaculture vessel. Now, what is an aquaculture vessel? What is aquaculture? We'll get there. By the way, before I get too crazy, behind you is a table with a fish bowl and some paper. If you have a question, write it down. If you want to ask a question at any time, I strongly encourage you to raise your hand. Dorothy, where is she? She's somewhere. Dorothy's this lovely lady behind you. She'll come and bring you a microphone, and you can ask me anything about the boat, anything about what I'm wearing, anything about Evan. A round of applause for Evan, everyone. This is our youngest deckhand. Really couldn't do it without him. It's amazing what you can do with this kid. So anyway, what is aquaculture? Let's start there. Okay, does anyone know what aquaculture? Show me a raise of hands if you know a good definition of aquaculture.
We have one over here.
One guy says mussels. Who else? Oh, is that it? Mussels and Jenny Crusoe. Okay, so aquaculture is a fancy way of saying growing seafood in the ocean. Now, Nick, why can't you grow seafood on land? Well, seafood only lives in the ocean, so we have to call it aquaculture, not terraculture or farming, dry land farming. So aquaculture consists of mussels, which we consider shellfish, oysters, clams, shrimp, lobsters, fish, crabs. You know, you could pretty much grow anything in the ocean that grows naturally. We can commercially cultivate it. Now, other forms of commercial cultivation aren't as sustainable as what we like to consider the most sustainable, which is the industry we represent, which is the offshore shellfish industry. This boat is designed to go out offshore and cultivate mainly mussels. Has everyone had mussels? Yeah? I think mussels are delicious. Yes, I see the thumbs up. Mussels are delicious. You get a pound of mussels at the end of the show. I'd throw them at you, but they're heavy. So, you know, mussels are this beautiful, sustainable protein source that we can grow day in and day out, year after year after year, and not give it anything except a place to live. So what's a place to live, Nick? Well, a place to live is the ocean. There's mussels growing right here in front of us. There were mussels on these until a tugboat flipped them over. Now they're baked mussels. But the beauty of mussel farming is we can feed an entire nation day in and day out with no consequences to the environment, no consequences to the quality of life for sea life and animals. And the whole objective of this boat is to bring that industry here, mostly to the coastal towns and communities, because I don't know if you know this, but just on the other side of that man-made rock wall is the Pacific Ocean, and it's massive. And it holds gold, it holds food, it holds treasure. Doesn't it, Evan? So why the boat, Nick? Why the big, shiny boat? Well, I think we've all, at one point or another, had the experience where you can't put, you can't put a square peg in a round hole. That's what it is. You can't put a square peg in a round hole. And another analogy is, you know, there's a tool for the job. Why don't you see Honda Civics going out and doing the Rubicon Trail? Well, Honda Civic isn't meant to go on the Rubicon Trail, so it can't go on the Rubicon Trail. And if it does, it'll do extremely poorly. So if you want to have a big farm and you want to farm efficiently, you want to farm effectively, and you want to produce a food source time and time again, year after year after year, you need a big tractor. So essentially, if we want to go farm offshore in the open ocean, we got to have a vessel that's not only safe for the crew that works on it, it's not only efficient in terms of our carbon footprint to actually grow a pound of mussels, and most importantly, it's big enough to get the job done safely, effectively, and efficiently, which is my kind of slogan. We can put 66 tons of shellfish on the deck of this vessel, 4 days a week, 365 days a year. Does that make sense? 4 days a week, 365 days a year. I think there's some math involved there, but you get the gist of what I'm saying. Time in, time out, again and again and again. We can have mussels in San Pedro, You could fly to Las Vegas this afternoon and have a plate of mussels that was in the water this morning. And that's the goal. There's another shellfish grower up here, Ian Jacobson. You guys will see him after today when you go walk to the open house. And he provides basically baby mussels. And we take the baby mussels out there and we put them on this farm and we tend to them throughout the year. The analogy I like to use is if you put a bunch of baby cows. Do I have any cattle farmers up there? No? Everyone loves baby cows. So if you have a calf and you put a calf in a small paddock, right? And the calf's like, man, I got all this room, I got all this grass. The calf starts eating the grass, food starts, well, now he's getting bigger. So now the paddock he's in smaller. Now there's not as much grass because he's eating it all. So any natural farmer would take that calf, put him in a bigger paddock, more food, more area, more room to grow. Well, we do the same thing with mussels. So we put these mussels out there, and you can't even see them. They're like little grains of sand. And we hang them on some rope. I brought some. Would you jump in that skiff and grab us some of that mussel rope? I'll throw it up here. I'll have Evan throw it up there. He's a terrible throw, so watch yourself. You take these little baby mussels and you put them on this rope that Evan's going to pass up to you guys here. And they start to get bigger. And as they get bigger, their area starts to get smaller. So we take these mussels off of the rope, and we're talking tons here, maybe 25, 30 tons. Can you throw? Who wants to catch this? Does anyone? There you go. Can you make it to them? Oh.
I saw him first. Sorry, guys.
Oh. It's a good throw. If you just pass this around, this is what the mussels grow on. It's actually quite unique. It's made in New Zealand. It's made by a lovely gentleman named Joe Franklin. Quality equipment, 71 Hillside Road. In case you're ever in Auckland, stop by. It's weighted with a synthetic material. Weight's really important in the ocean. If you don't have something under tension or weight in the ocean just has a crazy way of flinging it all about. That's why big container ships do really well in rough seas, because they're heavy and they weigh a lot. Same with the rope. We want to synthetically weight the rope. Now, I know some of you are going to touch this and go, Nick, this is a plastic product. Why are you using a plastic product in the ocean? Shame on you, Nick. No, shame on you. The life cycle of that rope, we get about 2,000 meters in a bag, is about 15 years. So just think about this for a minute. 15 years. I'm 31. 15 years ago, I was 16? 16. My dad wouldn't let me drive till I was 18, so I can't even say I was driving then. So anyway, 15 years, I was 16 years old, that rope would just be ending its life cycle. Now, in that lifetime, let's just say it takes 12 months to grow mussels, which it doesn't. It takes about 8 to 10. Let's just say 12. 12 months, 2,000 meters of that rope, wherever it's at, getting passed amongst everyone, would have grown 30 tons of mussels a year. So what's 30 times 15? Put him on the spot here. He's in college. Okay, 30 times 15. That's 450. I knew someone up there had to be smarter than me. 450 tons of mussels on just that one line. 450 tons. Can you tell me what 66 into 450 is? I'm not going to ask that of you, but it's a lot. Think about the average meal you have. You want to go get a plate of steamed mussels at 22nd Street Landing right now? Here's the crazy part about getting a plate of steamed mussels at 22nd Landing. If there's anyone here from 22nd Street Landing, it's a beautiful facility, really important to the coastal community at San Pedro. This is not a dig on you at all. You're going to eat mussels there that are probably almost 2 weeks old. Not only going to eat mussels that are almost 2 weeks old, they're probably not even from this country. Not only are they not from this country, not only are they 2 weeks old, but you're going to pay $20 a pound. So I'm telling you that I can bring 450 tons in a year for 15 years on one piece of plastic, and you'll go and buy mussels at 22nd Street Landing for $20 for a pound. So moral of the story is we can grow a lot of mussels for a long time with a sustainable product. Now, does anybody have any questions? I could really use a question right now. So, great question. The new trainees, it's not open yet, which is a shame. I'm waiting for it to be open because it's the shortest walk to the pub I've ever had. Why aren't we selling mussels? Well, we have to put our farm together. We have to seed the mussels. We're going through a regulatory process that is challenging, at least to say. We are the only federally permitted offshore mussel farm in North America. A big reason, I don't know if John Molina's still in the crowd, but you guys would have heard him speak. he had to build the right boat to go out there and do it safely. I'm sure some of you are familiar with Catalina Sea Ranch. Used to be the kind of the first go around for aquaculture. It was a major failure, and it wasn't a failure because it's not possible. It was just a failure because it was just extremely poorly managed, and we don't have to go into the politics of that. But nonetheless, we just brought the boat home 2 days before Christmas. Yeah, 2 days before Christmas, we brought the boat home. And during that time, we've been cleaning up all the remnants on the seafloor. I think we've done probably, I don't know, I don't want to say the tonnage, but we've done at least 3 or 4 of those roll-off dumpsters there full of debris that was left over from that farm. That takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of money, it takes a lot of effort. This time next year, you go to 22nd Street Landing, you'll be eating my mussels, and they won't be $20 a pound, they'll be $30 a pound. Oh, question. Great question, by the way.
Hi, you mentioned that aquaculture includes growing seafood in the ocean, and you listed a range of, fish and lobsters and other things, but right now you're focused on mussels. Do you ever see a time or a path towards creating aquaculture with other species besides mussels that is as economically and environmentally efficient and effective as what you're doing with mussels?
That's a great question. Well thought out. Thank you for asking that. The answer is no. There's no more. You cannot possibly get more sustainable than growing a mussel offshore. There is nothing that grows faster, that has as much omega-3 fats. It just doesn't exist. What you have to put in to growing 66 tons of something else would be drastically different than the footprint to grow mussels. That being said, Australia has a massive pearling industry, and they grow pearls and South Sea oysters. Now, after they've extracted the pearl from that South Sea oyster, by the way, that takes about 3 years, they'll use the oyster meat. You've got people farming mussels and oysters in low tide lands. They have to use tractors. They have to go in and out, flip cages. You got to have a massive staff. It's laborious. You only end up with 100 tons. So the expression pound for pound and the effort it takes to grow a pound of mussels from myself, from Evan, from the demand of the boat, from the demand of the shoreside facility, nothing competes. Now, I know some of you are saying, Nick, what about kelp? What about kelp, Nick? Everyone's talking about kelp. Kelp's the thing. Well, kelp's very easy to grow. I mean, it just needs sunlight and water, and you see an abundance of kelp. Next to kelp, you also see an abundance of mussels. Now, here's the point I'm going to make. If I asked 10 of you to come down here, would you eat the kelp or would you eat the mussels? And I'm probably sure most of you would say, Nick, I want to eat the kelp because I don't want to bite into the shell of the mussel. Fair enough. But that mussel is going to give you 15, 20, 30 times the nutrients that you'll get from chewing on that piece of kelp. We just had Arnold Schwarzenegger here the other day. And I don't know if any of you seen Pumping Iron, but he wasn't shoving salads into his face, I can tell you that. But it was a great question, but no, I don't think there's anything more sustainable or more efficient to grow than mussels. That being said, you can grow a numerous amount of seafood offshore or coastally, and obviously there's a massive industry for that around the world. Unfortunately, North America's lacking that. Go ahead, Dorothy.
All right. What exactly is the displacement and weight of this vessel?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, since I said we can put 66 tons on the boat, keep that in mind. Light ship, nothing on the deck, full of water and full of fuel. We're about 120 tons. That's our displacement. The weight of the vessel is about 187, 186 tons. Solid aluminum. The only thing that's steel on the boat are these gantries, which are good for 2 ton a side, our exhaust, and our propeller shaft and the engines that are down below. They're Caterpillar engines. That's a great question, by the way. I like the guy that asked that question. I couldn't see you, but I like you. It's a single screw boat, so it has one propeller. And the reason we decided to go with one propeller versus two was we don't need a second engine. Two engines is great. You've got some redundancy having another engine. There's a significant cost with having another engine. Also, there's a significant amount of pollution that you put out with two engines versus one engine. This boat does about 13 knots. We don't really have a desire to go anything faster. And these are Caterpillar's newest engines. They're both Tier 3. We have one 803 horsepower for the main engine, and we have a 400 horsepower C.9 that's just designed to run all the hydraulics. We've got 9 hydraulic pumps. We've got 1,100 gallons of hydraulic oil on board. So we can do quite a bit. 12-ton, 300 centrally mounted Powellfinger crane, 2,000 gallon per minute water pumps, one 20-ton capstan here on the port quarter. We have another anchor handler, anchor winch and windlass in the bow, and then these parts on the boat right here actually accept our harvesting equipment, which we use to pull the mussels out of the water, take them off the line, clean, sort, grade, and stack them in bags on the deck. So at full capacity, this boat hums at about 4 to 6 tons an hour of harvesting shellfish, which is great. I mean, which is phenomenal. Our farm's supported by the floats. Everyone, you go grab one of those floats, please. Interesting enough, you just had the Tongva that you heard from this morning. These floats were designed in New Zealand, and they're called waka floats. So a waka is a traditional ship that the Māori used in New Zealand, and these are designed and made in New Zealand. And this is what supports our farm. So if and when we all make it out to the farm, which I assure you I will take every single one of you out there, the farm is supported by these floats. These are the only things you see at the surface. And about 20 feet beneath these is the actual farming structure itself. And it's going to be really hard to explain. I need to work on a good demo of some sort. But essentially, if you look at my left leg here, I didn't shave, so don't look too hard. There's a screw anchor. And a screw anchor is basically a giant steel screw, kind of equivalent to these timber piles here in terms of size and length. And we drill that anchor into the sea floor. And we do so. We have no observers on the boat looking for whales, dolphins, and things like that. If there's any sea life next door to the boat, we shut down the entire operation and wait till they've swam by, which is extremely obnoxious because I don't know if any of you have been out to our farm, but every time we go out there, there's 500-600 dolphins swimming through the farm? Yeah, and which is beautiful. But anyway, we drill these anchors into the seafloor. Once they're drilled into the seafloor, they only stick about 6 inches out of the seafloor, and they only disturb maybe a foot of the seafloor as they go in. Then we have a rope tied to that anchor, and we go about 1,200 feet the other direction. We put another anchor into the ground that has rope. So you've got a rope over there. You got rope over here. We splice into that rope, take it back to this rope, splice into that rope. I know none of you are following this, but I'm going to do my best to explain it. And then if we don't put floats on it, everything just wants to sink to the bottom. So by trying to force that float underwater, remember Jaws when he puts all the barrels on the great white shark and he's trying to swim it down and it's trying to fight him up, and he Hooper, put another barrel on, Hooper. And so same idea. Those floats are designed as the rope structure wants to sink, those floats are pulling it back to the surface, and we tension it, and hence why we have to have the boat that it has. It's under about 90 tons of tension after we pull these lines together and suspend it with those floats. So then you've got this line submerged 20 feet underneath the water, supported by these floats. On that line hangs that mussel rope, wherever that is. There it is. That mussel rope, so it's not that short. It's 2,000 meters is typically what we put on one line, and it just hangs in a continuous fashion. So it goes up and down and up and down and up and down 20 feet below the surface, and we droop it down about 30 feet. We go back up 30 feet, go down 30 feet, so the whole thing's between 50 and 60 feet actually underneath the water. Loop it, loop it, loop it, loop it, loop it, as we put baby mussels on it. That's a whole nother, so we call it seeding. And we come back in 6 to 8 months, and we take one end of that rope, and we put it into a machine, and the machine pulls it on board, strips the mussels off. The mussels fall into a system called a declumper, which helps break the mussels apart without breaking the shell. If you break a mussel shell, you kill the mussel. Also, it's not very attractive to go to the restaurant and eat mussels with broken shells. It's like chewing on sand. Goes through that process. Then it goes through like a gold trommel. Go ahead, Dorothy. Okay, go ahead. Another question.
This is
Time's
also
up.
fantastic, and I have a two-part question, I guess. By weight, how much of a mussel can be eaten? How much of it is edible? And then what can be done with the part that's not edible? I mean, I guess you're going to be serving it at a restaurant. If it were harvested more commercially, what can be done with the refuse, the part that's not edible?
So every part of the great question, thank you. Every part of the mussel is usable. Every single part. I don't know if you guys know this, but a mussel shell is black. It's literally carbon. It's made from sequestering carbon, taking carbon out of the seawater, is a mussel shell. Now, they also have a lot of nitrogen in a mussel shell. We're going to get to the mussel itself, but we're just going to talk about the shell since that's the part that most people have a relationship with because that's what they see when they look into the water. That shell, other parts of the world, New Zealand, Australia, the UK, it's an incredible road base. So they use it as an aggregate in road bases, which it's done phenomenally well. It's also found a lot of success in agriculture, being mulched up and put into soils for farming, mainly organic soil. A lot of organic farmers really swear by crushed up mussel shell. So for all those green thumbs up there, come scrape some mussels and step on them and throw them in your garden. Your cats will love it. It'll smell for about a week, but you'll have great tomatoes. Then, so with the shell part, that's the short answer to that is their road base, farming in the soil, lots of uses there. The meat of the mussel, it's not actually what you're after in a mussel. What you're after in a mussel is fat, sort of like a steak. And when you see a mussel, next time you guys eat mussels, you're going to remember this. You're going to look at this mussel and you're going to go, is it a male or a female? And if it's pink, it's a female. And if it's white, it's a male. They look identical other than the coloring of the meat. Then on top of that meat, you're going to see this kind of squishy layer, and that's the fat. And that's the key to good mussels is to have really fat mussels. I mean, mussels so fat that the shells can't close. Those are the kind of mussels we grow, by the way. And I swear to God, these mussel shells can't close, and you can't help but think, God, you're a fat mussel. You know, you lazy mussel, you. And it's quite funny. But and then to answer your second part of the question, you mentioned the weight of the mussel compared to what you can use. Now, mussels are designed tidally, so they can go dry and survive high and low tides. I don't know if every 6 hours the tide fluctuates between low and high. It's because of our lovely moon. Mussels hold water, so they take in a big breath of water, and they close their shell. And while the tide's out or while they're dry, they survive because they stay nice and wet. And they hold that water. As soon as they get covered with water again, that's called spitting their water. And they spit all that water out, and then they start filtering water, right? So when you take a mussel out of the water, typically it closes its shell and it's full of water, so it weighs a lot. But then after you steam that mussel and you've rendered it, it's spit out all its water, and it's nothing but the meat and the fat left. You'd like to think 20% of the weight of the mussel is what you're eating, the actual meat. If you're doing 20 or 30%, you're doing just unbelievably well. Most mussels you'll see here in North America, unfortunately, the way they're farmed and the way they're cultivated, you have a lot of inconsistency. So, you have one mussel that's 2 inches, and you have another mussel that's 3 inches, then you have another mussel that's 1 inch on your plate. So it's kind of, you might get one really good fat mussel out of a pound of mussels, which is something that this boat and the technology we do is designed to kind of negate, where through our grading process that happens on the boat, if you called me up and say, Nick, I want 100 pounds of mussels this evening, and I want them all to be 3 inches, I can basically guarantee you that 95% of your mussels will be 3 inches. Of course, some fall through the cracks, and you can't sit there and hand grade every single one of them because it's just not economical. What else? Go ahead, Dorothy. 2 more questions.
So for the students who are interested in working in this field, like this ship specifically, what are some of the steps that they must take to get here?
Was that what can students do to be working on an aquaculture facility?
Yeah.
That's a great question. Move to New Zealand, work there for 7 years, and then come and see me. No. What we're trying to do here is, so let me back up. My first thing to anyone here in North America trying to get into real commercial scale aquaculture, and this is the aquaculture that's going to feed cities, that's going to provide long-term jobs, that's going to keep families together and keep coastal waterfronts working. I would say it doesn't exist in North America yet. I'm going to change that. We're going to change that. We're all going to change that. Alta is going to change that. Do they like the water? Start diving. If you can like the water and you have a relationship with the water, go be a diver. That's a great gateway into deciding if you want to spend your life on and under the ocean. Now, say you're already a diver and say you want to get involved in aquaculture. Well, you don't need a degree. So I don't cancel out people that want to work for me because they don't have a degree. I do look for marine experience. I think it's really important for someone who wants to work on a vessel like this that they have an understanding of ship husbandry and life offshore. But also, I would encourage them to volunteer and be a part of the blue economy so that we can try to get more projects like this doing what they're supposed to be doing and make aquaculture. It's almost a sad question. How do you get involved in aquaculture? I don't know. Not enough of it exists. Why doesn't enough of it exist? And it's just this unfortunate cycle that we're trying to break through here in North America, because I've been around the world farming seafood. I mean, literally around the world farming seafood. It has been the best thing that has ever happened to me in my entire life, other than working with Evan. It has been just extremely enjoyable working with the people, working on the boats, living in remote places and working off the coast. And I came back to America. I didn't want to come back here. I really loved living and working in New Zealand. I mean, it's amazing. I came back here because I owed it to people like Evan. I owed it to those kids over there in the corner. I owed it to everyone up here that they could have the same experience I had right here. Why can't somebody go and do what I did over there here? Just doesn't exist yet. It will exist, though. And then those people that want to get involved with aquaculture will have a pathway. They will be able to graduate high school and go, you know what? I want to go work on that boat. And then I want to go take my girlfriend out or my boyfriend out to the restaurant and eat those mussels that I just harvested this morning. You know, I used to remember sitting with people and, it was in Ireland. And we were eating mussels. The Irish grow really good blue mussels. We were eating green mussels. They're from New Zealand. And no matter where you're at in the world, well, I guess maybe some third world countries you can't do this. You probably wouldn't want to do this. But you can ask for the harvest tag. Show me where these mussels came from. And we were in Ireland. It's happened here in the U.S. too with you. And they gave me the harvest tag. And green-lit mussels only come from New Zealand. Green-lit mussels only come from New Zealand. We're sitting down there eating a plate of mussels. The harvest tag came over to the table. I read the harvest tag. It said Manaya B6. Well, Manaya's in Coromandel. And B6 is the farm they came off of. And based on that time of year, I looked at the people we were eating mussels with, and I said, I grew those mussels. I seeded those mussels a year and a half ago in Manaya. I know that block. I could show you a picture of that block. And to me, that was like, God, here I am around the world in a whole other country eating mussels I grew a year and a half ago. And how incredible would that be for Evan when he grows up? Sorry. To run this boat. He's 20. You're 21 right now, aren't you? 22. God, time flies. I'm getting old. He'll be running this boat when he's 30. I'll be dead and gone. And he would have created and saw an industry through where he'll be here talking to you, and he'll have a swab of his own. And I want to see that replicated 100 times over from San Diego to Seattle. And then, go ahead, Dorothy.
So, Nick, this is really fantastic. We've got many, many more questions. Probably not enough time to cover them all. We want everybody
rapid
to...
fire questions, Terry.
So
just rapid fire them.
Exactly. Rapid fire questions and answer. Let's
what you're saying is stop talking, Nick.
The last couple. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, I have a question, and I wanted to know, how do you keep the harvested mussels from maybe getting lost at sea if the water was rough when you were trying to come back?
So you're saying what happens to the mussels on the deck if I'm coming back and it's really rough and the mussels are falling off? Is that what I'm catching?
Exactly, because you have this open space here. That
We have
looks
we
kinda slippery.
I got what you're saying. Great question. So the mussels that get harvested that go on the deck go in big bulk bags. It's like these giant 1-ton bags that we move around with the crane. And we've built this boat with the harvesting gear in place to accept 66 of those bags. So we put 66 of those bags at 66 tons on the deck. Each of those bags is filled with mussels. They're about this shot shorter than me, so they're probably about 6 feet tall. And the way the boat's designed and the stability of the boat, we actually don't see. It's one of the for its size and its stability. I've never lost a bag of mussels, and I'm proud to say that we've never left a bag of mussels behind.
All right, very good. One last question.
Hi, I work at the Whole Foods Seafood Department, and we have mussels. And the customers, when they see an open mussel, they're like, "Oh, there's open mussels." And you're saying the ones that are really fat should be open where they can't close. So what do I tell these customers when they see?
No. Great
open
question.
mussels in the bag? 'Cause
The
they're-
mussels that can't close will have like muffin tops of fat coming out of them. We call the mussels that are open, they're called a gaping mussel. Now, like I said, mussels will spit their water and open. It's not the end of the world. But yes, typically when you go to cook your mussels at home, if you buy a pound of mussels from Whole Foods, you take the mussels that are open, you throw them in the trash. If all the mussels are open, it's probably not a good sign that you're eating a quality product.
All right. Thank you very much. Let's give Nick a great big round of applause, and Evan.
Thank you, everyone.
And I hope Nick will be able to get from the boat to the dock, maybe to answer more questions and interact with people. I don't know if you're able to do
sure.
that.
Yeah.
Great, because I know there's still a lot of people with questions. I want to invite you to 2 things, everybody, before you disappear and go on back into the warehouse. Number 1, Ignite 22. Our partner Braid Theory and Carpenter is here. Yes, let's hear it for Ignite 22. That comes up May 4th, next week. May the 4th be with you. And so it's a great event with all kinds of innovation that you'll see here and great speakers and so forth to learn more about the blue and green economy. We'd like to invite you, of course, to come back into the warehouse and see our marketplace. And we hope that you'll buy some of this great Alta Sea swag and support the cause, become a member of Resiliency. Yes, Alta Sea. And consider volunteering. I want to thank once again our volunteers who came out here and helped us set up and are helping us organize this event. Please thank them. And of course, all the tables inside there with all of our various exhibitors and yes, right. And our sign language translators, Tiffany Brown and Marva Riggins. Give them a great big round of applause. Thank you all for coming. Consider this your home. We're going to be doing so many more of these things over time. Sign up for our newsletter so you know when. And there's going to be groundbreakings and exciting things with Jim Cameron's submarine that he took to the bottom of the Mariana Trench. Bob Ballard, who's one of our tenants here, Ocean Exploration Trust, he found the Titanic. He also found undersea vents and all kinds of amazing scientific discoveries. The Tongva people, as I mentioned, will be here. So much more going on. Please come back. Thank you all for coming today.